Alright, so why does this suck? Well, we're going to go over a few things today. Namely, everything on the back of this, stick it right there for notes, but also, god damn it, dude. Do you know where this came from? Not only where this came from, but see my notes? Look what's on the other side of it. Yeah, it is a free ticket for the Monster Mayhem Tour. Monday, right? Alright. Guess where these came from? They sent them home from school with my daughter. There are so many levels of fucked up to this. Let's go through this just for a second. Free, extra day, free at Disneyland, right? And of course you need something for the boys, right? So you've got boys and girls, and then you got the boys. And they sent these home with every kid at school on the last day of school for fun suggestions for summer. No, these aren't fun suggestions. These are forced advertisements specifically put in the hands of the children first so that the kids come home all goddamn excited and push it on their parents. This is the dirtiest, sleaziest technique and manipulation to try to make money. How fucking disgusting is this? That I had to watch my daughter come in and her hand this to me and go, can we go to Disneyland this summer? Please, please, it looks so fun. Look at all this stuff. That's fucking sleazy shit, dude. Not only am I going to have to dash my daughter's dreams, right? Because, poor. But I am so disgusted by this. And let's talk about why this is not just wrong, but damaging to our social architecture, okay? First and foremost, coincidentally, I just finished watching Kurzgesagt's latest video, is civilization on the brink of collapse? Do you really need to ask that question? I mean, I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. But let's go over this a little bit, because this has a lot to do with where we're going as a society and how we're going to get out of it, if we get out of it. I've been running socioeconomic simulations for 6 fucking years. I haven't made any money on this. Why? Because nobody wants to spend money on research that inherently is the antithesis of something you could spend money on and get a return on investment from. So it's kind of a fucking mess, but let's do this really quick. Okay. First and foremost, we are extracting coal and oil from the earth, right? It's not like it's, filled with coal and oil. There's thin little layers of just, minimal pockets around the earth here and there, and we've tapped a lot of it. Like, I can't remember what the estimates are, but there's the, what is it called? Oh, the Schmugga theory of dig-a-dig-up, right? Anyway, more or less, it's not going to last forever, okay? This coal and oil represents hundreds of millions of years of life evolving, dying, getting crushed with pressure and heat into a very fine liquid storage material, battery, that you can extract and use for energy, right? But given that we've built our entire civilization on this stuff, and given that it's not going to last forever, we're going to hit a brick wall at some point. It's inevitable. Not sure when exactly that's going to be, but it's coming, right? We have become so addicted to this just torrent of energy and capacity and capability that we have forgotten to step back and take a look at it and be, and analyze it critically and say, look, if we continue to use this incredible source of power that nature has given us, at the rate that we are using it, we're going to be done with it soon. And as we are finishing it, right, as we're using the last few drops of the available fossil fuel, prices are going to go up for it, obviously, right? Which is going to make the people that own those reserves more and more wealthy, right? And everybody else is going to kind of get left in the dust, and we are no longer going to have the energy reserves necessary to sustain our current, our current level of energy usage and productivity. So, obviously, there are a few things we need to do to avoid this. First, we need to find a way to minimize energy usage. Let me back up. Not minimize energy usage so much as minimize energetic waste, which there's a difference here, right? Energetic usage, right? The use of energy. Minimizing the use of energy means cutting it down to just the smallest amounts of what is necessary to sustain the basic functions of society. Minimizing energetic waste means that we continue to innovate, that we continue to make discoveries, and that we continue to invest in energetic discoveries that allow us to get more work and more return, not in monetary return, but more return as far as what the energy did for us. Okay, make less energetic waste. For example, my computer's running right now. My screens, my monitors running right now. They're not cold. I'll tell you that. There's a fair amount of heat coming off each one of these devices. That energy is just going into my room, right? It's just evaporating. It's just getting transferred from the thing that is using the electrical energy, which creates heat, and it's dissipating into my environment. Now, if there were better ways to handle that electrical energy in a way that the heat isn't, is minimized, that the electrical energy is used in such a way that any heat radiation is being produced, okay, that would be ideal. That would mean that I wouldn't have to use as much energy to run my computer and my monitors. It means that I would be using the least possible amount of energy to run my devices, and in doing so, we would be able to cut back on the amount of energy that we use. So, minimizing energetic waste and maximizing the productivity and the output of each unit of energy that we consume in any one device or experience or activity. Okay. This is all going to come back to Disney. Trust me, I'll expand in a second. Okay, so the profit motive. Let's talk about this little motherfucker. The profit motive and the financial incentive. There's a conflict of interest that suddenly arises, and this is such an incredibly massive problem that it's going to take a second for you to sit down and absorb what exactly is happening in our world. The profit motive says, do what you need to do to make the money necessary, not only for your organization to survive, but for you to be able to continue to make more money so that you can gain wealth and live a happier and healthier and more comfortable lifestyle. This is the insanity of our current economic system. Okay, the profit motive, the financial incentive, it's all just a bunch of redirected motivations that have been realigned because we have money. Now, I'm not going to get into this. I've got articles and whole videos on this, so I'm not going to dive right into this particular topic right now. But let me do say that economists, their answer to this weird dilemma, right, to the fact that we have energy companies, utility companies, people that or organizations that provide energy for the community, right? Oil companies, gas companies, electrical companies, all these sorts of utilities and providers of energy. The problem is that they want to sell more energy, right? Because the financial incentive dictates that they do. The profit motive pushes them to sell more energy. But if we want to get to a better place as a world, we need to minimize our energetic usage, and we need to maximize our energy to productivity ratio, so that the littlest bit of energy creates the maximum amount of service or product or whatever, so that we get the most out of the smallest amounts of energy. But in that, we need to do this as a society, and in that other companies are working on developing ways to do this. Now the energy companies are going to be kind of worried that they might start losing profits. There's two things that can happen here. As a species, we tend to do something rather stupid. As a resource becomes more productively managed, as we are able to squeeze more and more out of smaller and smaller amounts, we tend to think that means that now we have all this extra energy that we can just go ahead and use on other things. But that's not exactly what we should be doing, right? We should be minimizing our usage so that we aren't using as much. That's kind of the point. But the energy companies, one, don't want us to do that because they want to keep selling their energy, okay, until it either hits some catastrophic threshold where they either have to start doing like rolling brownouts or something. But my point is that there's a conflict of interest, okay, in that they want to continue to sell energy, but wait a second, all those people out there, they're figuring out how to use the energy more efficiently, more effectively, and they're getting more usage out of it, and so they're not using as much, so we have to kind of persuade them to continue to use the same amount of energy on other things as well. It's kind of this vicious cycle. And economists, if this was not a known side effect, right? If this was not understood generally, an economist would call this an unintended consequence. What an unintended consequence is, for example, there's an old story where there were rats running in, I can't remember what early settlement town, running around, or this may have been another country, I can't remember, but the gist is the same, right? So there were rats running around, and the city said, okay, for every rat that you kill, we'll pay you 5 pence or whatever the reward was. So people would go around and start killing rats and cut off their tails, and they would bring tails in as proof of the rats that they killed. What they did not anticipate was that now people started to breed the rats like in large amounts and quickly, so they could just cut off all their tails and take them in for reward. This is the insidiousness of the financial motive, of the profit motive, right? The financial motivation here. that there are ways to manipulate systems in order to get what you want in a way that the whole reason for establishing that system goes right the fuck out the window. So, so not only did their little scheme amplify the number of rats in the area, people, nothing was happening. No rats were getting squished. It was just people were breeding rats and letting rats procreate and feeding them so they could just like chop off their tails and take them in for reward. So it had literally the opposite effect of the whole reason for offering a reward for every rat tail brought in. Unintended consequences are kind of the poison for the economist, right? And in economics, okay, if you've taken any economic courses, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's this idea that an unintended consequence or an undesired consequence can be offset or derailed by introducing another stream of motivation. So, for instance, let's say a company is dumping. Okay, they're dumping their toxic waste into a river, and all the people that live along the river are starting to get sick. Well, the company doesn't care. They're upstream, right? They're just dumping the waste into the river, and it's not harming them. They're making money. They're dumping the waste without having to pay for disposal fees. They don't have any problems with any of it, right? They're not experiencing the side effects of like the people living downstream are experiencing. So, in this situation, an economist would look at the situation and decide to resolve it in a way akin to this. Okay. We're going to introduce a tax for dumping. For every gallon that you dump, you have to pay, such and such in taxes, and make that payment amount more expensive than the amount it would take to have it properly disposed of. Well, this doesn't work. Okay, they attempted to control the motivations, right, and the unintended consequences, but this didn't work because now they're dumping in secret. They're secretly dumping it. They're not doing it just out loud in the middle of the day anymore. Now they're doing it in secret, and maybe paying for a barrel to get disposed of correctly every week or so, just to keep it kind of like they're still following the rules. So now an economist they're gonna realize what's been happening, and they're gonna say, okay, well, we've got to fix this. So now what we're going to do is, and they're going to come up with another scheme that involves, introducing new laws and regulations, introducing different taxes in different areas to affect different things in order to manipulate the situation so that they stop dumping in the river. The problem with this is that you have one issue that is originally a direct result of the financial incentive, right? Because you don't want to pay to have to get it disposed of if you can just dump it in the back, right? So the financial incentive caused the initial problem to happen. And now the economist is going to come in and start, manipulating things and trying to play, little game master with the whole game board and see if you can, reorganize everything in such a way that all these little dominoes and pieces, act in such a way that after this happens and you do this and you introduce this law and then this is the side effect and then you do that and it's going to cause them to do the opposite, and now you got this happening, and now they finally stopped dumping in the river. They think it's a good way to handle things. And it's how we've been handling shit. Oh, since the inception of taxes, I'm pretty sure. But it is such an incredible fucking waste of resources. Okay? What if, here's a fucking idea. What if you could just get them to stop dumping in the first place because they were driven, intrinsically motivated to not dump in the river from the very start? Wouldn't that be a better option? Yeah, but unfortunately, the financial incentive is a pretty goddamn strong little force out there, right next to the weak nuclear force, the strong nuclear force. Fuck, that's crazy. It's stronger than magnetism, weak nuclear, strong nuclear, and gravity put together. Causes people to do stupid shit, right? I mean, people do dumb things to satisfy that motivation, to satisfy that incentive. Okay? So, there's a cycle of unintended consequences that comes into play. It's almost fractal in a really weird way, which is kind of a series of simulations I'm tinkering with here, okay? But my point is that it's not exactly fractal, but it has a very similar sort of like it's fractal in the sense that the same leak, I guess, the same break of the original intention always follows the incentive vector, like the financial incentive vector. And whatever is the closest reactant to that at that point of the attempt to control that particular problem, right, is what it affects. And so then you patch that up, and then that leak breaks out somewhere else, and then you got to go patch that up, whether it's with laws or taxes or whatever the fuck you want to do, and you just got to keep patching it up, and it's always the same vector. So it has kind of this, it has a very fractal like iterative kind of process until it fizzles out. So the economists, okay, have a few major faults in everything that they're doing. One is that they're always trying to remedy unintended consequences by laying down new avenues of financial incentives in a way to hopefully, reorient the flow of stupid. And two, and they get crazy with it. I mean, oh my God. Yeah, they're from taxing from cigarette taxes and food taxes, and then companies find little holes and pass it on to the customers, and then the customers end up being the ones that pay for it instead of the corporations or the companies or whatever, and then they have to pass another law or a new tax that taxes whatever, so that it goes back to being something that the companies have to deal with. But it's always taxes always trickle down, or not trickle down, but whenever you tax a corporation or a company or anything, it always comes back to the consumer. Always. It never regulates a corporation or a company. And yet, for some reason, people seem to think it will, and economists still continue to, recommend and implement these idiotic ideas. So, the problem with all of this is the financial incentive. Everything gravitates around the financial incentive. Why do we even have drug wars right now? Why are drugs even illegal? Why do cartels exist? Why are there crooked cops? Why are our electronic devices and our our machines, our cars, our vehicles, our washing machines, our dishwashers, our monitors, our cameras, right? Why are they designed specifically to break down after a certain amount of time? That's definitely not following with the original idea of minimizing energetic waste, is it? Because every time something breaks down, you have to go buy a new one, and you have to spend energy to make money so that you can go buy the new one. So it's this, and you know what this is called, right? Planned obsolescence. Companies do it all the time. Apple is fucking terrible at it. But they literally devise their softwares or their hardware or whatever in a way that it will break down at some point. When in fact, we have the technology to build products and machines that could last for an incredibly long time if they weren't designed to break down. Planned obsolescence, right? What else? Taxes, corruption. Why are people corrupt? Why do people stand up and say, vote for me and I'll make sure this and this and this and this happens, and then they get into office and none of it ever happens? Well, because they were lying to you. The only thing they cared about was getting into office and getting that new paycheck, or being able to work that new angle so they could make more money doing whatnot, right? It always comes down to the financial incentive. Everything. Everything. But why? Why has this become such a powerful poison and toxin in our world? Is it possible that you could run a society without the financial incentive? Is that a possibility? That's kind of a big question, right? Most economists will tell you no. Most economists will tell you that money is a necessity. Money is the core driver behind the Industrial Revolution and the computer revolution and digital revolution, right? But nobody's ever tested this. Nobody knows for sure if it's necessary. So, because an economist is so invested in their profession, I think it's called the investment fallacy, where people that have been in abusive relationships for a very long time continue to deal with and suffer through the abuse because they've already invested 5 years into the relationship. You know, I mean, it's got to pay off at some point, right? So they stick with it. Let me look that up really quick. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. Investment fallacy. Is that right? Sunk cost fallacy. There we go. 1 second, I need some nicotine. The sunk cost fallacy. Now imagine, so there's two kind of cooperating forces here for an economist specifically, and for other professions surrounding or depending deeply on economic, our current economic science, if you can call it that, or understanding of how the economy works. So the first is the sunk cost fallacy, right? In the mind of the economist, they spent how many hundreds of thousands getting through school, right? And how many more hours and years of their life training in a professional field and working with such and such a company or organization, and getting to really get a good hands-on understanding of how the economy works. So they're deeply invested in their profession. So to even suggest that you could remove money, it would be a you know, a sucker punch to the core of their soul, which, you know, is it kind of like leads to the second thing, the psychology of identity. If they have built their entire life around this identity. Now, I liken this to my experience of losing my faith. I was raised Mormon, LDS. And God damn, when I lost my faith, it's not an experience I can really convey to you, but the best way to describe it is that throughout your life, you know, from just being a little kid, you've started to build your little foundation on this principle and that principle and this and how it connects to that, and you start to lay the floorboards and the second floor and building this little structure, right? That at every level you have oriented the mechanics of your life around this structure. Every single level, every step, every tile on the floor is designed to fit with what you have been taught, until one day you look down and just is this right? Is this correct? You know, and you start investigating a little, and there's a point where suddenly you just realize that, oh my God, everything I have learned since I can remember, right, about how reality works, it's not true. It can be true. I mean, you know, it's simply incorrect. And at that moment, there's this bizarre feeling of one kind of this illumination, right? You feel enlightened a little bit, like, oh my God, everything. Oh, you start seeing everything differently, but in that kind of ecstasy of sudden freedom and release, you also fall into this thing where all of a sudden, all of the structure that you've built your life on top of, that you've oriented everything about you around, your personality, how you behave, how you talk to people, what you think about people, what you do on Sundays, what you do on Saturdays, right? It just vanishes. And everything that you are just falls to the floor. And a lot of people have a really hard time handling this. I had an incredibly difficult time handling this. I fell into addiction. It was pretty shitty times, man. Fucking homeless on the streets with a needle on my arm, right? It was the only thing I could do to just forget about the fact that my entire life was a lie. Well, if there was a way to run a society without money, right? If there was a viable way to do it, if there was a viable way to run a society without money that is better for everybody, that would be much less wasteful, or much more much more efficient, much more productive, better for the environment, less pollution, right? If there was a way to do it in such a way that instead of everybody following this single unidimensional profit motive, right? Now that's broken down and everybody can follow different motives. If there was a way to realign the social motivational foci, or foci is, I guess, is the proper Latin way to pronounce that, wouldn't that be better? You know? Would it be possible? Could you do that? The problem is with an economist, just like with somebody raised in a religion, with an economist, because they have control over whether or not their structure falls. Because the economists, those are the guys that you have to convince, really, to help them see whether or not there's a viable method for doing this. But they've built their entire life around the concept of money and monetary exchange and market, dynamics and all of this shit, that to even suggest that the one thing that their entire identity and their life is structured around could be removed from society in a way that would make the world better. No. Fuck no, dude. Their ego will resist that at every fucking corner. Guaranteed. Not just guaranteed. I have several examples of such conversations. They won't even look at it. They won't even entertain the possibility, because it is a direct attack on who they are, on their very identity. It's a direct attack telling them that all, right, the sunk cost fallacy, all of the money, all of the time, all of the space and materials that they have spent on their education and in their career and in their profession, that it just all meant nothing? No, come on. They can't take that. Unlike somebody that's going through a crisis of faith, even somebody that's gone through a crisis of faith, and if you have, you know what I'm talking about, it can take a while for you to finally roll around to being like, yep, that's it. It doesn't matter how much cost I've sunk into this. It doesn't matter how much, time and energy and personal, emotional oomph I've put into everything. It's just, it's too much now. Like, I have to simply accept it, watch my tower fall, and just deal with the aftermath. But an economist, it's a different thing with an economist. Religion is a fanciful, just words coming from some dude's mouth at the pulpit, right? Economics, man, that's hundreds of years of validated, verified science and theory and philosophy that goes into economics. It's a very robust field. I mean, not robust, when you compare it to something like physics, but robust in that it is in the veins of our society. For an economist to turn his head away from money and accept that there's a possible way to run a world without the financial incentive, that sticky, stinky, elusive, destructive force that we all are bound by right now, they're not going to. It goes against every fucking fiber in their being, from all the textbooks they have on economics, to all of the audiobooks they have on economics, to all of the papers they've written on economic theory, right? to discard all of that, it's not going to happen. You will not get a valued economist to even consider the possibility of a moneyless society. It will not happen. I can almost guarantee it, based on, psychology, right? I mean, psychology tells us that it will take a fucking dramatic move and shake to get a hardcore, well-respected economist to turn away from the concept of money. So, back to Disney. Came home with my daughter. Monster truck rally, right? Came home with my daughter. Why? Why did this happen? Well, the financial incentive is there. They didn't care how sleazy it was to stick little ads into the kids' hands and take it home to mom and dad. They didn't give a fuck. It's as bad as sugary cereal commercials on the TV in the morning. Thank God I don't have a fucking TV in our house. It's as disgusting. It's as vile, but we have so accepted it, right? Like, oh, well, fun. That's so normal for large corporations to use little fucking kids to, get their parents to buy something that's not fucking cheap, right? What is this? I'm not going to use it. A lot of people aren't going to use it. I wonder how many of these are just going to get thrown out. Because I don't want this shit, right? I'm going to put it in the recycling. But my point is, what a fucking waste. I can guarantee you this exact pamphlet, there are millions of copies of this out there. And that's just one advertiser, right? That's just, Disneyland, right? There's Six Flags, there's Knott's Berry Farm, there are other things, all right? Summer programs for kids, all sorts of shit. And so much of this is just never, ever going to be used. It's just going to be thrown away like this. Done. In the garbage. What a fucking waste. That is not using materials or energy responsibly. What it is it is obeying the financial incentive. It is saying, okay, well, let's figure this out. We can get 12 million prints done for, $3 million, or however much 12 million pamphlets of Disneyland prints cost. And if we know that, statistically about 1% of every household will give to the advertisement, and if that consists of a mom and a dad, maybe, and the kid, let's just say mom and kid. So that's, a weekend ticket for mom, weekend ticket for kid, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then calculate that across the 1% of, 36 million or whatever the fucking figure I just said. And so that's what? Let's make this simple. Let's say they did 100 million. Okay, so that's 1 million sales out of the 100 million. And for that 1 million sales, let's say the whole, everything that everything they're gonna pay to Disney is $300 to $500. So that's $500 million, give or take, right? So, for the $3 million that they just spent advertising, whatever, they got $500 million back. That's a pretty fair investment, Who gives a fuck about what happens to all that material that got wasted? Why? Because of financial incentive. Fuck that shit. We just made $500 million. Ha! That's why it's poison. And that's why if we don't correct ourselves, that's just advertisements. That's just some stupid fucking thing that they sent home with kids. If you took all of the wasted ones, all of the ones that weren't acted on, and put them in a big pile, oh, dude, tons. Easily, tons and tons of just fucking wasted ink and paper. Millions of dollars of wasted ink and paper just so that they could get into the hands of about 1% of the population. That's vile. That's disgusting. That is a sick world. That is a world with a psychological cancer called the financial incentive. So, FYI, I'm building simulations to try to get a lot of this shit figured out. So I've been building socioeconomic simulations that incorporate a thermodynamic perspective to try to discern the relative entropy and enthalpy of each system as money does different things. So far, it's not looking great. So far, it looks like money is just about the worst thing that has ever happened to humanity. But it is research, it is science, and if you are interested in helping, please contact me. I could use a donation or two, because how many people want to invest in something that has the potential to be the epitome of why you should not have a return on investment. Like, you know what I mean? Who's going to want to invest in this? So, or who that wants a return on investment is going to want to invest in this research. Finding funding has been not the easiest thing in the world, but I could definitely use a little bit of help to finish this. If you're a coder, if you are a millionaire or a billionaire that sees the fallacy in money, god damn wonder what the minimal tiny little percentage of millionaires and billionaires who see the fallacy and the problem of money would be. But I could use some help because we are quickly running out of time. Like fast, not just fast, like really quickly. We are fucked if we don't turn shit around now. You know, we don't have time to sit here and twiddle our thumbs, twiddle our wiener. But yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this video. I will be doing a series on Euclid's The 13 Books of the Elements. I will be going over each concept in detail for anybody that has always wanted to get through this and never found the motivation to do so. But if there was a video series of the elements, they would. This is for you. Alright, kids. Let's save the world. Shall we? Please? You know, I've got a kid. I don't want her to grow up in a fucking post-apocalyptic shithole. And I'm pretty sure you guys don't want your kids to grow up in the same shithole. So, let's get this shit done. Let's get this scienced. Let's get this research searched. Right? Let's get it handled. Let's make sure we know what we're doing. And let's make sure we know exactly how to dig ourselves back out of this shithole we are currently digging ourselves deeper into. All right. Have a good one.